Hey there, AP Hug team. This is Sanchez with a flipped video lecture to highlight our discussion of historical geography in the United States. Quick reminder for this particular module, you're going to take notes in the flipped lecture, and you're also going to have your geolog book to look at the additional resources and links in the module category. Alright, so what do you know right here to start off a discussion? We have a political map of the United States, which can come in handy because, reminder, we do have a map quiz that's scheduled for Friday. That's going to test you on the United States. Make sure you're familiar with your mental map. So for this flip lecture, I just want to introduce the fact that there's kind of like a subset of geography that's known as historical geography. And historical geography analyzes geographic patterns throughout history. So for this particular flip lecture, we're going to focus United States. Obviously, American history has some interesting geographic patterns. Now, of course, when we discussed we talked about in population migration, we know the United States is an immigrant state. An immigrant state is comprised or made up primarily of immigrants and their descendants. So we also touched upon this when we talked about the issue of culture. The mindset that, again, the United States originally was a melting pot. Send us, you're poor, you're tired, you're hungry, you're sick. The waves of migration throughout history, whether again we're talking about Italian migrants or Chinese or Mexican. So going way back, however, the settlement of the United States began back into colonials, the early 1600s, and is continuous even today, with people coming from around the world. The United States was a colony of Great Britain until the Revolutionary War, which is, again, 1700s, and you can think back to 8th grade history when you studied the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party and taxation with representation and all the reasons, of course, that we fought in American Revolution to become an independent state. Now, of course, after gaining independence, the first U.S. government we could connect to is actually the U.S. government creates a confederation. So the term confederation means it's a loose group of states that work together for a common purpose. So you think about the perspective early after the American Revolution, which colonists just fought a revolution against a king, which they viewed as a tyrant and was not addressing their concerns. It kind of makes sense where they wanted to make sure that they didn't necessarily concentrate the power in a central form of government. Now, again, fast forwarding through some American history here, but ultimately the Articles of Confederation didn't work. It was just simply too weak. There was difficulties between commerce between states and currency and travel, and really it was just basically these sort of states doing their own thing and not necessarily a united nation, or actually, again, a common state with a common purpose. The states had way too much power, and ultimately the federal government could not financially support itself. Now, again, American history, the Constitutional Convention, which was convened in Philadelphia, colonists kind of went back, or I should say Americans went back to the drawing board, and we finally got a new constitution which granted more power to the federal government. So the U.S. political system today is considered a federal system of government. Alright, here's a graphic to take a look at and maybe create a T-chart, or perhaps even create these graphic organizers into your geolog book. So currently in the United States of America, our political system is considered a federal system, where the ultimate power rests in the hands of the national government. Now, the state governments can establish laws but cannot supersede the authority of the national government. This form of government is kind of in between a confederation, where we saw that power really lies in the hands of the individual states, and on the flip side, on the left on your screen, we have the far end of the spectrum, where we have a unitary state. And this is really where the state, all decisions are made by the national government. A lot of the local governments or regional governments are kept weak. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the screen, looking at a map, obviously. So you can see here today with the kind of the difference, and you can kind of maybe do a visual WOQI, where we're talking about the fact we're at a global scale. Observations, you can see the key at the top. So the green states will indicate the federal system. So you can see the United States of America falls into that federal category. The blue would be the unitary, where again we have that strong central power. So think about, again, just visually the questions and perhaps even inferences go into connections as far as impact that this could possibly have on our political climate at a global scale. All right, the U.S. government is a representative form of government. So leaders that are elected from individual states to be represented, and the senators in the two houses of Congress. So this should connect back to your discussion of 8th grade history. You definitely spent some time studying the Constitution. I know my AP Gov folks are very familiar with the graphic on the screen. So today that the United States has 100 senators, so you think about it, 2 from every state, and we have also 435 representatives. A senator serves the entire state. So again, on a local scale, or should say a regional scale in California, we just had the election of a new California senator, which was Kamala Harris. But we also, again, while the representatives, we talk about the issues of districts. So again, that's more on a local of how we divide different districts. Now, these districts are reapportioned every 10 years based on the results of the census. Remember, the census is pretty much the way the U.S. government tracks information regarding population, demographic data. It could be very significant in terms of how we actually determine the representation. So therefore, again, the urban areas or the city areas with a higher population density have smaller districts, while the rural districts have larger. Now, when you're talking about representation and looking at districts, you also have to introduce the discussion of political geography known as gerrymandering. So gerrymandering is the redrawing of political boundaries for political gain by one of the major political powers. In federal terms, gerrymandering only applies to congressional districts, but not at the Senate level, because think about it, since senators are elected statewide. But the graphic on the screen can tell you, or should visually say, kind of give a breakdown of how necessarily drawing the lines in different ways can affect different outcomes. So for example, number 1, it says perfect representation. So you have 3 blue districts and 2 red districts, so then if you add it up, blue would kind of win if they are swayed in one political party or towards one candidate. Number 2 on the list, it says compact but unfair. So in that case, 5 blue districts are created and red doesn't win anything or necessarily even has their voice heard. But then look, again, you could spin it a third way. Again, the third way to kind of, with all those kind of squiggly lines, it's not really fair or compact. And in this case, you have the blue districts by 2 and the red districts wins. So just by simply redrawing district lines, that can affect outcome. All right, let's go ahead and cue up a short video clip that was taken from the Washington Post. And it's just kind of a brief intro, a little 2-minute clip about what is gerrymandering.
So, you want to know what gerrymandering is? First, let's start with Government 101. In the United States, each state elects a certain number of representatives based on the state's population. The larger your population, the more representatives you have. Each representative represents a district, or a geographical area including its voters. Ideally, we want to have a range of representatives who reflect the political views of the population across the state. But how do we decide who gets to vote for each representative? Let's look at an example. Suppose we have a very tiny state of 50 people. 30 of them belong to the blue party, and 20 belong to the red party. And just our luck, they all live in a nice even grid with blues on one side of the state and reds on the other. Now, let's say we need to divide the state into 5 districts. Each district will send 1 representative to the House to represent the people. Fortunately, because our citizens live in a neatly ordered grid, it's easy to draw 5 lengthy districts, 2 for the reds and 3 for the blues. Voila! Perfectly proportional representation, just as the founders intended. Now, let's say instead that the blue party controls the state government, and they get to decide how the lines are drawn. Rather than draw districts horizontally, they draw them vertically, so that in each district there are 6 blues and 4 reds. With a comfortable blue majority in the state, each district elects a blue candidate to the House. The blues win 5 seats, and the reds don't get a single one. Oh well, finally, what if the red party controls the state government? The reds know they're at a numerical disadvantage. But with some creative boundary drawing, they can slice the blue population up such that they only get a majority in 2 districts. So despite making up 40% of the population, the reds win 60% of the seats. Not bad. This process of redrawing district lines to give an advantage to one party over another is called gerrymandering, and it's nothing new. The term gerrymander is named after early 19th century Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry, who redrew the map of the Senate's districts in 1810 in order to weaken the opposing Federalist Party. Our example is, of course, a huge simplification. In the real world, people don't live in neatly ordered grids sorted by political party. But for politicians looking to give themselves an advantage at redistricting time, the process is exactly the same, and the consequences are very real. Gerrymandering is at least partly to blame for lopsided representation in the House seen in recent elections. And, it's been argued by the president, for political polarization, since representatives don't have to compromise hardline views in order to win seats.